Hello everybody, this is going to be the video, as promised from yesterday's Liquid video, the analysis of Team Secret at TI and exactly what led to them beating everybody up until second place, but then also somewhat getting manhandled by Tundra in the finals. So let's just first talk about their drafts and kind of the role dynamic that we saw going on within the team.
Banana slam jam.
So we pull up the drafts, and, I want to address a problem, because this is probably a question that pretty much everybody has, that I would say the average viewer doesn't really understand. And first and foremost, we see that Team Secret picked Leshrac first round every single game in the finals for resolution. And a lot of people flamed, there were memes saying, how did they just pick Leshrac 3 times in a row? What are they doing? Yada, yada, yada. Do they not know anything else? And this happens a lot in TI history. If you go ahead and rewind back to how they got to the finals, Team Secret versus Thunder Awakened, Team Secret versus LGD, Team Secret versus Aster, you may notice something. You may notice a first round Lesh pick in pretty much every single game. And if you look at it, it was 5-0, 6-0. It was actually 6-0, but one of them was a 10th pick Leshrac. So while all of you may think you're smarter than Puppy, they made it to the finals with a formula, and simply they weren't as good as Tundra. So this happens a lot. This happened Team Liquid versus OG in the finals in the past, as well as what happened here, where one team made it to the final using, in Liquid's case, it was Mind Control's Tidehunter. They were pretty much undefeated leading up to the finals, and then got absolutely wiped by OG in the finals. And it's just a situation where everybody has their ideas and strats going into TI, and sometimes somebody else has your number. So I want to talk about exactly why, first and foremost, I think Leshrac worked for Team Secret earlier on in the tournament, and why it didn't work later on in the tournament, specifically against Tundra. So going off of all my other analysis for Liquid, as well as the general synopsis of TI, we talked about the importance of Wraith Pact. And I've experienced this firsthand playing Leshrac in pubs against the likes of heroes like Broodmother that rush Wraith Pact and pipe. Leshrac is a hero that does damage purely around him, right? He has to be point blank range, 500 radius, and he shreds everybody. And that's countered by Wraith Pact, because he has to be within the radius of Wraith Pact. And it's also countered by range damage dealers and burst damage. He sustains with Bloodstone, and he has to be right up in your face. So I feel like if you look at these drafts that were attempting to beat Leshrac throughout the course of the tournament, pretty much all of these heroes, with the exception of Zeus, have to be point blank range in order to deal the damage that they want to, which is going to allow Leshrac to be there in the middle, Bloodstone activated, pushing his ulti, and healing off of it. But then when we compare that to the final series, where they pick Leshrac, there was always some ranged burst combo or kiting potential coming out from Tundra. In this game, it's Tusk plus Hoodwink, tons amount of burst from range with Hoodwink. And game 2, it's Arc Warden. And then in game 3, it's Medusa. If you actually look, while a lot of people think there's a meme about Medusa being picked because Skeeter got the Crimson Witness right before their finals match, if you actually look, this is something where I learned this back in the Medusa patch from 6 months ago. We are currently looking at Leshrac on Dota Buff. His third worst matchup in the entire game is Medusa. If you look at the way Leshrac is countered, range damage dealer, range burst, range damage dealer, range damage dealer, range damage dealer, it's pretty much the same formula. So, going off of everything we said in regards to Wraith Pact and the way that Tundra won TI and the golden formula for making it work, Leshrac absolutely broken hero in theory because of the fact that his build is just too strong with the Bloodstone, and you see it kind of carried Secret throughout the course of this tournament. But Tundra, who had the best grasp of the meta that we already know since they sweep the finals, and we've talked about what that meta is, I hope you can at least see what I'm going for and why Leshrac fell short in the finals. But it's also what got them there, so why Team Secret stuck to it. A little bit of a long explanation to explain that, but I hope you guys are now on the same page as me. Let's talk about the roles that Team Secret has as a team. The majority of their games, they either opened up 2 supports or they opened up Rezo plus 1 support. That's pretty much every single one of their drafts, with the exception of this Monkey King. And the reason why I feel like they did that was that the offlane duo between Zayach and Rezo were old friends, and they also spoke to each other in their native language. So this is something that you can kind of just feel when they did interviews talking about the game and stuff, that they had like a bond as like a duo. They worked really well together. So it's kind of like just plug Rezo's hero in. You know, Puppy likes to have his puppy drafts where he picks a lot of different heroes and he picks like the perfect hero for the game. And I think they kind of settled in by realizing like, let's just pick Rezo's hero every single game in the first round and allow him and Zayach to kind of just do their thing in the offlane, which will allow for some potentially bigger brain picks focused predominantly around Nisha and occasionally Chrysalis. So basically their draft formula, like I said, was support plus Rezo. Rezo's hero was always a lane dominator, Dawn Breaker, or a summons hero, Beastmaster. They did play Enigma originally early on in the tournament, but they definitely did not have as much success with it as other teams did. And so you can see that Rezo, being a former carry player, even though he's been an offlaner for 2 years, his offlane pool is very farm heavy. Dawnbreaker always takes the dangerous farm, but she still farms throughout the course of the entire game. Beastmaster, very farm heavy offlaner. You saw 33 be #1 net worth in many of his games as Beastmaster. And then also Leshrac literally goes in the offlane and buys a Bloodstone and hits creeps. So that's like the playstyle that they used in the offlane. And it kind of goes with like ATF, Amar's playstyle from the previous patch, but I think it didn't work as well for OG in this patch because ATF's heroes all got nerfed and they all sucked. So Rezo's credit, he was playing more meta-based heroes in this farm-oriented role, which I think is what helped them get to second place. We talk about Puppy's hero. It was always some team fight utility hero like Silencer, or it was the summons heroes with the Chin and Enchantress. Puppy specials, just heroes that have to be in the right place at the right time, really dictating the pace of the game, the fights of the game, controlling micro movements and all that kind of stuff. Very standard Puppy things that you can expect. Nisha was really the focus of this team. It feels like a widely accepted, I would say almost unanimous opinion amongst pro players that Nisha, one of the best, if not the best, pro player in the entire scene. He's the most skilled, at the very least. This guy is absolutely nuts mechanically, and anytime he was given the chance to shine, this guy went off. In this game specifically, we saw the Nisha Invoker. In this game, we saw the 10th pick Morphling. It really did feel like if Nisha had a good game, that Secret would win, and if Nisha was not set up for success, that they would not win. It really did feel that simple. Everyone else was kind of built around enabling him to have a good game. And so even though I expressed that Rezo is a farm-heavy player, they had these off-lane lane dominator duos that were really centric around applying pressure with that farm such that Nisha could be at most of the fights, and then they could also play around mid just as much as Liquid did, really emphasizing the pressure in the mid lane, which we're going to see against Liquid in Game 1, and we'll also see it against Liquid in Game 3. And last but not least, Chrysalis. He's a very high MMR pub player that got added to this team from Entity, who had not had very much success when he was on it in regards to making lands and such. He's like top 10 EU. This guy specifically, to give you some history, was basically a hero spammer, very similar to ATF, but in the carry role. His heroes were the likes of Bloodseeker, Monkey King, Razor. Very like mid-game semi-carries. That was the type of player he was. Very good at it, with limited competitive experience, very young guy. So he's got a promising future. It's honestly impressive that Puppy made it work, because I think Puppy, towards the beginning of the season, when they added him, they were trying to give him heroes that he couldn't really play for the sake of the draft being better. And at the end of the day, if you don't play the hero perfectly, it doesn't really matter if it's a good pick. And I definitely felt that from Chrysalis during this tournament. I might even end up doing a comparison of his Naga Siren to Skeeter's from game 1 and 3 of the finals, because I think Naga Siren is an example of a hero that he just didn't quite play. I don't want to say he didn't quite play. He played very poorly in comparison to the heroes that he is known for. I think part of the fact that Secret made it to the finals is incredibly impressive because none of Chrysalis's heroes that he was known for, Monkey King, Razor, Bloodseeker, were very good. Like, none of these heroes were very good in this current patch. Those heroes were all very good when they added him, by the way. So that's something that's really important to note. But the fact is, I think he did his job in these games, and by no means, like, I feel like the formula for Seeker was, as long as the rest of us are good enough to allow Nisha to carry us and a puppy draft to carry us, we will win. That was pretty much the formula for this team. Not to take anything away from the other 4 players, but Nisha is an all-star, and I cannot really be convinced otherwise. So what we're going to be doing today, so what we did for our last video for Team Liquid was that we talked about what their strategy was and then how it worked versus everybody up. So what we did in the Liquid series was we talked about what got them to 3rd place, right? And the reason why we avoided analyzing the Team Liquid versus Secret series was because I want to now talk about what Team Secret did that was better than Team Liquid to make it to the finals. So for today, we're going to center our focus on the Team Secret versus Liquid series to show you what made Team Secret the team that they are to get to the finals. If you want to know more about what Tundra did that was just better, that's going to be on our video tomorrow. That's going to be talking about Tundra and how they basically dissected Secret and just kind of shit on them, to be honest. So today, we're going to be focusing on Game 1 and 3 of the Team Liquid series versus Team Secret, and just talking about exactly, the dynamic of their net worth distribution, the roles in the game, the drafts, and their idea of the meta that allowed them to do exactly what they did in this tournament. We got a Ricky sniper, but for the sake of these drafts, I want to show the order from left to right of what exactly was happening here. Team Liquid opened up with Enigma, and so Puppy always wanted to have a team fight solution to what the opponent was doing. That was something he always prioritized, specifically against Enigma. That was a big deal for them. This would allow them to take the fights they wanted, despite not always having the best team fight heroes on their team. So they kind of took team fights by virtue of shutting down the opponent's team fight, generally speaking with Puppy's hero, if that needed to be done. Most of the other summons heroes that these teams would play didn't really need to be addressed in team fights, so team fighting not a huge part of this meta in regards to like AoE spells other than Enigma. So Puppy really prioritized this. He always picked Silencer against the Enigma, and even in Game 2, he first picked Silencer in order to deny pick the Enigma. But this formula that worked against Liquid specifically was the one we talked about, Beastmaster plus ranged hero in the sniper. I really do think this combo is pretty broken, even though Beastmaster doesn't himself buy Wraith Pact, he buys Helm of the Overlord. And it's just the idea of this ball that you can't fight into, range damage dealer, we've been there, done this. But the idea is that this 10th pick Nisha Morphling, I think was a huge oversight from Liquid. Morphling hard counters Lifestealer because he can morph into you and get a free BKB. And then they didn't have any instant disables or long-range burst on the entire lineup of Team Liquid. So that means that Nisha can just operate this entire game with, like, full Agimorph. And we're going to see exactly how Team Secret, turns this into a win. And I would say, half of Team Secret's wins in TI, if not more, were just on the back of Nisha's, incredibly early dominance in the game. So given a pretty free game on Morphling, we're going to see what happens, right? We're going to see that Secret will rotate 1, maybe 2, just depending on how many they need, supports to the mid lane to allow Nisha to apply early pressure, especially around the fact that he is going to be secured the 6-minute rune, because a lot of 6-minute runes can heavily influence the pace of the mid lane. So we see that it's 5:45. Zayach has already rotated to top rune. Puppy has TP'd to bottom rune. So both supports coming for runes is a very crucial part of the way Secret plays. And then they turn this DD into opportunistic tower pressure. And pretty much the entirety of this game is drawing attention to Nisha's lane, basically allowing him to outskill people, while Rezo kind of does his own thing farming on Beastmaster and the other games Leshrac. And Crystallis being on a semi-carry. I feel like whenever he was forced to play a hard carry, I don't think they ever really flourished. They always wanted the priority, the one position, to be given to Nisha. Very similar to the way that Liquid played, so that might be a general formula that is good for this meta, is having your mid laner be more of a carry. I feel like because of the runes, because of the safety of the mid lane, this patch just specifically, it doesn't feel good to have a lot of your resources dedicated to your carry. I myself have experienced this, that I like to be playing self-sufficient carries that can push out the lane, defend their tower, and allow my team to go do other things. Sniper is a great example of that. That's why we've been hyping up Sniper as a hero. He's very good at defending his own tower. And even though he's like a squishy range dude, he's pretty self-sufficient because of the fact that he can shrapnel from afar if he's ever concerned about his own life. And then he builds generally like a Hurricane Pike type item pretty early on in the game, which means that in team fights, all the saves, all the resources don't really have to be dedicated to him. So this was a really big part, this early pressure on the tower and consistently playing around Nisha for runes as we fast forward. Kind of just sacking Chrysalis, to be honest. Like, you know, at this point they'll respond to help Chrysalis get a kill, but like, otherwise, unless they're TPing to help Chrysalis, they're just not playing around bottom at all. So Liquid, I feel like, is bringing not enough heroes consistently, kind of like disrespecting almost how many heroes Secret intends on playing around Nisha, and just they almost always got the mid tower first. That was like a big part of Secret's success, was taking this mid tier 1 tower and then turning that into like invading Rezo's lane. So Rezo didn't really rotate very often. The only hero he really rotated on was Dawnbreaker, and that's not because he walked places like to gank, it's because obviously Dawnbreaker has a global ultimate. So almost all of their games, Secret would prioritize this tower first on these high-pressure heroes like Morphling for Nisha, and their success plan would incorporate them taking this tower, or at least pressuring it a lot, forcing a lot of responses, and then quickly connecting to resolution in order to then pressure the carry out of top lane. Which I can tell you as a carry player this patch, it feels really bad if 3 or 4 heroes come to my lane. Especially on a hero like Lifestealer, who basically is picked in order to occupy his lane for as long as possible. So Secret pretty much always guaranteed with the Rezo heroes who have really strong level 6 timings that the enemy carry will get booted out when Nisha rotates. So generally speaking, Chrysalis will always be taking the defensive farm unless Rezo is on Dawnbreaker. So the way they distributed the map was Rezo would farm this area if he was Beastmaster and Leshrac. He would farm this area if he was Dawnbreaker. So him and Chrysalis would flip. But they always had a dynamic where Rezo takes one side lane and Chrysalis takes the other side lane. And then Nisha will generally play around the core that's stronger in the game. So if we look at net worths, Nisha will generally be near the one between Chrysalis and Rezo, who has higher net worth. So they kind of like farm pressure you with their 2 strongest cores, while the third core kind of does their own thing on the opposite side of the map. And that was really lineup oriented, but this was how Secret really liked to play. So I'm pretty much playing on Nisha's perspective because he's what drives pretty much every decision that they make. Notice how they always rotate back to mid, generally speaking around rune times. In this case, it was just to get a kill on Matumba Man. Sadly, it didn't quite work out because they didn't micro their creep. It's going to turn into a bad fight for them. But what we're going to see exactly after this is what makes Secret Secret. So let's go ahead and fast forward. A little bit of a misplay there. But notice how often Puppey and Zayach TP in to fill Nisha's bottle, keeping him on map at all times, accelerating his farm. Very important. We talked about Liquid always having this 2-hero network distribution, if you remember that from yesterday's video. Liquid had the same distribution in their series versus Aster. So you kind of notice a trend on teams in terms of how much network distribution they give to each core. This is very common for Secret. Nisha would be on top, but the other 2 are not lagging too far behind. And it's because even though Nisha, I'm saying, is getting most of the attention, he's not playing a hard carry in the sense that he's like AFK farming Arc Warden with a Midas. He's playing a hero that needs farm, but can pressure. Take towers, look for ganks, look to be survivable on the opponent's side of the map. A lot of what they're doing to enable Nisha to farm is not actually sacrificing anybody other than the supports that are helping him do this. So this was a very common distribution for Secret, is 3 cores, very similar net worths, with the 2 supports lagging behind. And that's why Puppey being like a silencer type hero that serves its purpose in the game with very few items was pretty crucial in these types of games. So what was cool about what follows up with this is that since Secret kind of lost all of their momentum with that mid play, Nisha proceeds to start taking very safe farm. They've basically given up on the pressure play, and that results in Resolution as well as Chrysalis kind of just having to pick up the scraps. I know it looks like this is the dangerous area where we talk about the dead lane and all that kind of stuff. But if you look at like the enemy lineup in Nisha's hero, he's pretty much never under threat. Like they always try to pick a survivable independent hero for Nisha that's capable of pressuring. That's like the formula that they have for him. So what they like to do with Nisha in these type of games, when they don't have map control anymore, is to have the rest of their heroes be responsible for defending towers, for taking engagements, and Nisha will show up to play cleanup. So you see there, TP's from bottom to clean up, and then he rotates to the other side of the map while Rezo and Chrysalis stay on his side of the map. And then we're going to see the same thing happen again, where Rezo is going to get initiated on in the bottom lane, and Nisha's going to TP in order to connect. Same way that you just saw in the mid lane. So Rezo gets gone on, Nisha TP's in for cleanup crew. Basically allowed to freely operate in these fights. And the Nisha show continues. Very standard stuff coming out from Nisha. And if you haven't heard it enough from me already, this entire team's plan is how can we make Nisha carry us? Early game, Nisha was really strong. Play around him all the time. Have one failed play. No longer play around Nisha. Basically serve as gank tankers for Nisha. And allow him to connect to fights. So I think for an average viewer, you know, you look at these net worths in these games and you see like, you know, Chrysalis, man, that guy f***ing sucks, you know? Why did they hire this guy? Like, why did they add this guy to the team? He's always like 4th, 5th in net worth. It was actually very similar from Matuma Man, not in this game specifically, but in a lot of their games. And I really want the viewers to see that these teams dedicated most of their resources in terms of priorities on the map, giving Nisha and Mickey from Liquid the space to farm these creeps. And it's not just about the fact that they're giving them more farm, but it's where these teams choose to put these players. It's like when Liquid was playing around top, Nisha's the one playing around bottom. When Liquid's playing around bottom, Nisha's the one playing around top. Like, they're purposely putting their mid laners in a situation where they can farm safer, where they are able to capitalize on team fights. So I really want you guys to understand that this is like planned. This is understood that Chrysalis will be in this situation. And what I like so much about Sniper, specifically for this, is that the hero offers a lot for defending towers, defending his own safe lane for a long time, defending mid lane for a long time, does a lot of damage with very few items in the mid game, just between headshot, take aim, shrapnel, and his ult. Very high damage in the mid game. I think Chrysalis operating on these heroes that could afford to be 4th or 5th in net worth was really important for Secret to be able to be successful. And that's why I think whenever he was put on the Naga Sirens, even like the Monkey King carries, it just wasn't the same. And also varying level of success for Team Secret. So now that they've won a fight, back to playing around Nisha. Supports follow me everywhere, secure me every rune. Time to go back to the aggressive part of the map, but not by myself this time. Time to go with supports. Zayach scouting out for him, allowing him to farm safely here. And we're basically, you know, resuming what we were doing before they failed that attempt mid lane. But what I liked about Secret is that they're always very good at seizing opportunities with their timings. Notice how they have Vlad's, like they have Helm of the Dominator, Morphling just finished his Manta. So, like, they've been able to, like, technically play for Roche anytime they want. Like, they've been capable of taking Roche in terms of actually killing Roche for a long time now. But they haven't been doing anything. They just keep farming. They're finishing the Manta. They're finishing Helm of the Overlord on Resolution. And they're also, you know, they finished the Hurricane Pike on Chrysalis. But honestly, his timings didn't mean all that much in comparison to Rezo as well as Nisha throughout the course of this tournament. And the second they get these items, they're going to immediately try to make something happen. They're going to take a fight, willingly. They're going to win it. And they're going to turn that into a Roche. So similar to Liquid, they're very good at picking and choosing their fights. But Secret, I think, had the better formula. For when we talked about Liquid, they were invading the opponent. They were the ones smoking in to take fights. But what Secret would do is that they would distribute the map in a way where you saw Puppy kind of babysitting Rezo, gank tanking for him. You saw Zayach gank tanking for Nisha. Chrysalis playing a hero that can reliably farm the safe part of the map, or like at least like shrapnel out mid safely. Safe part of the map meaning he's not a liability to his team. They don't have to help him. Once they get their items, they're just like, okay, if Liquid tries to do anything, nope, shut it down. So it's this whole idea of like very hard to engage into us. We're gonna punish you when you do that. And we kind of saw it, like you see, like if you look at these two drafts from the perspective of what we talked about on Monday's video, where it's like the team that tries to engage into the opponent team is most likely not going to win. I feel like Doom is kind of written in the, or, you know, written on the wall here for Liquid, right? They have hard commitment heroes with Lifestealer and Primal Beast in 2 of their cores. And Secret has very hard counter initiation with the Beastmaster Roar, Silencer Global. Nyx is very good at counter initiation. And Sniper and Morphling are very difficult to run away from. The slows from Sniper, the mobility from Morphling. So they did the same thing in terms of timings that Liquid did, but they more so did it by, we're not going to let you get anything. How dare you try to fight us, kill you, take objectives off of it. So most Aegises for Team Secret always went to Nisha. He's actually their carry, so makes sense. And instead of doing the whole distribution of farm on the map, 3 different places, they're putting Puppey with no global by himself, and the rest of Secret playing around Nisha. They were pretty methodical about how they handle these objective taking. They would really never force towers until they get Roche. Similar to Aster, get Roche, range damage dealers with a Summons Hero, walk around the map, taking all the towers. Nisha, being incredibly survivable, is now allowed to TP bottom by himself and actually set up a kill from Zayach. This is actually a really nice play. So the idea of this top push was that they would force 1 or 2 heroes from Liquid to go back to their base, such that by Nisha TPing bottom, he knows he's not TPing into like 5 heroes. They know because they forced multiple heroes from Liquid to defend this tier 3 tower, that if they were to find somebody down here, they would be alone, or at most 2 heroes. And with Nisha having Aegis, like worst case scenario, he gets black holed and loses Aegis. That's like absolute worst case scenario because Liquid was forced to respond to this. So that's the way Secret would operate on the map. This is like a very standard move though. It's a very standard move. Force the opponent to react, TP your Aegis hero to the opposite side of the map, and make a play. Very quick movements from them. They're very good at this. Really just following Nisha's perspective because he dictates everything. I know I already mentioned that. But same as Aster. Walk around the map with the Aegis. Take all the towers. Take all of the outer tier towers. Take top tower. Take bottom tower. Smoke across the map. Don't let any of Liquid split push. Kill anybody that's alone on the map. In this case, Mickey. Now they're going to push this lane out with Rezo and Nisha. Then they're going to sweep back across the map towards Liquid again, farming their way there. Really no rush on this Aegis. Pretty much every Aegis in the later portions of this tournament was used for this exact purpose. This seems like the formula for Aegis in 7.32c is to get it, take all outer tier 2 towers, and shut the opponent off into their base. So Liquid's now stuck in their base. Nisha does the repeat of TPing bottom, but this time instead of going for a tower, since it's already gone, he's going to reconnect to his team, especially because the Aegis is gone. So, same thing as Aster. They had the same playstyle as Aster in regards to objective taking around the map, same formula. They get that first Aegis, do all the things we said, and then they sit at Roche with their 2 range damage dealers and a Summons Hero that buys Vlads and an upgrade. So they're going to control this area for all of eternity until Roche comes up. Honestly, an uncharacteristic smoke. This is something I don't think Aster really did. So this is actually a little bit of differentiating from strategy. I don't think Liquid expected this at all. I would think the same thing, where I'm thinking like Secret's just going to play to control Roche and control this hill. But actually pulling out a really unique move there from Secret. I think they realized they were just way stronger than Liquid. They were up by 7k. They felt it. Liquid couldn't really fight them with global available. And Morphling's just pretty unkillable if they can't black hole him. So it seemed like a lot of games for Secret, because they had so much focus on making sure all 3 cores had pretty solid net worths, would snowball out of control pretty quickly. We saw like pretty much every game, like Resolution, Nisha, and Crystallis are being given farm. And even though the priority is being put on Nisha, they would hit pretty similar timings. Like this game, we saw the Manta, Hurricane Pike, and Helm of the Overlord come out at the exact same time, and then it's go time. Like, I feel like this game, if we look at the timing where they hit all 3 of their items at 18 minutes, the game is perfectly even. And so basically Secret would take one mistake that people would make, in this case Liquid going for mid tower, and basically just end the game off of it. And it's very punishing, and the Secret's very good at doing it. So we see, like, you know, the before and after. 18 minutes, pretty much even game, get all 3 of your items, win 1 fight, fast forward 6 minutes, Aegis, 6k, 7k, 1 more fight, it's basically GG. You take racks off of it, game over. So Secret really punished these teams hard. Basically 1 or 2 mistakes and the game would end. And that was really because of how much farm they dedicated to all 3 cores. The supports had virtually no role in actually ending the game. For game 3 of Liquid versus Secret, very similar formula. We open up support plus resolution pick, and then we have the range damage dealer and Crystallis. And I think Drow Sniper were definitely their 2 best heroes this patch. I know that they come off as hard carries, But I really emphasize that these carries, in the form of Sniper, babysits the map. It makes sure you don't lose your early buildings and contributes a lot to mid-game fights with very minimal net worth. And then Drow, despite being a carry, really buffs up the team around her. She makes the opponent have to go on her, basically drawing attention away from everybody else. So what's really cool about this game, that's opposed to game 1, in where we saw Puppey and Zayach have like very low net worths, is the exception for this, that Secret had 2 different playstyles, which is really cool, is when Puppey plays Summons Heroes, Chin and Enchantress, he is given a ton more farm on the map. And it's also really important to note that there's only a limited amount of farm on the map. So even though Nisha is going to go the normal Midas Invoker route, we're not going to see like the Boots of Travel Midas route. You know, we're not going to see the crazy split push farm heavy game coming out from Nisha. It's going to open up for Puppey to be allowed to have much more scaling potential here. You know, in the other games where they have all 3 cores dedicated, with Puppey being a poverty hero like Silencer, they're able to have multiple targets. They have a 3-pronged core lineup that hits all these timings. But in these types of games where Puppey is going to be like a 4th core, it allows them to basically present you with a bunch of different threats. Zayach is usually on like some counter initiation stunner, like the Nyx and the Earthshaker in this case. Very good at that job in his role. And then it's basically like, pick your poison. You're either going to kill Crystallis and Puppey kills you, or you're going to kill Nisha and Crystallis kills you. It's very difficult to pick targets against a lineup like this. And I think in this meta, where we talk about a lineup that kites you back, forces you to fight into them, and turns it on you, this lineup does that incredibly well. And even though Drow is the carry, the aura from Drow makes Puppey have extra armor, and it also makes him attack much faster. So it's going to enable this Enchantress even better. So I really like this draft coming out from Secret in Game 3, and it's cool to see a team like Secret have like 2 different versions of net worth distribution. Most teams don't have this. So what you're going to see when Puppey plays these types of heroes is this effect. Once again, there's only so much farm on the map, but Puppey's going to draw himself away from all of the other supports, playing a much greedier game for himself, but somebody has to pay the price. So in this specific game, it is Resolution. What you have to do in that case, as a professional team, is you have to pick the hero that will do its job the best with the least amount of net worth. Drow basically becomes a liability with no net worth. She basically just is super squishy and does nothing. And Invoker definitely needs net worth. So they chose Beastmaster, who at the end of the day wants the Helm of the Overlord, but with Helm of the Dominator and farm on other heroes, he will be able to contribute meaningfully to fights. So Team Secret, very good at this principle. It's really important if you're going to have a team that focuses on giving farm to a support in any given game, is picking and choosing carefully a core in your lineup that will function well with minimal net worth. So Nisha's always a farm-heavy hero, no matter what. In the case of Morphling, we talked about how he's really capable of pressuring. Morphling wants people behind him in order to pressure. In the early to mid-game, Invoker does not want people behind him. He wants to just basically push out the lane, spam Forge Spirits, Midas creeps. He's very slow, 285 move speed, doesn't even have boots yet. So it's the same game plan where they're allowing Nisha to farm the middle part of the map, but rather than securing him runes, because Invoker's not a rune hero, and also just allowing him to farm in Midas, notice how they actually get the timing on Rezo, Helm of the Dominator, and they make a move immediately around Rezo while Nisha's just doing his thing. I would really like to compare and contrast this to our critique video of why EG fell short. Teams like Secret, they were just really crisp. We talked about last game with their timings. We're talking about early game timings in this case. Resolution just finished his Helm of the Dominator. Secret hadn't really made a move all game yet, and this is going to be their first move. I feel like when I watched Secret, all of their timing moves, the times that they chose to take fights, the times that they chose to pressure towers, they all made sense. And Nisha being able to pressure his tower the way he is was really crucial to this, because if he wasn't on a hero that did this, then the opponent could afford to just dedicate all of their resources to shutting down a move like this. But if you think about it, with 3 heroes from Secret, timing from Rezo, in the top half of the map, somebody on Team Liquid has to respond to this, right? They have to do something to stop this tower. But in the meantime, Nisha is also a hero that is capable of applying pressure on his tower. So Morphling and Invoker fit this description perfectly. This is really their formula for success, forcing Mickey to defend the mid tower rather than contributing to the top fight. Really nice move by Liquid to bring down Nisha in the mid lane there. They always put a huge emphasis on defending their mid tower. Secret pretty much never allowed their mid tower to go down. That was kind of like a nice benefit of having Crystallis on these ranged carries. Most ranged carries, like Drow and Sniper, they like to play either this area or this area, which is around mid, pretty safe area, generally speaking, at this stage in the game, and allows them to be here. So Secret would pretty much bring as many heroes as they think they need to bring to keep this tower alive. It was, you know, we're talking about Nisha pressuring the enemy tower and turning that into top tower, and that was a crucial part of the way they play the game. So Nisha, you saw last game when Morphling, he went Treads, Dragonlance, Manta, Hurricane Pike. His entire build was always like, let me survive while I pressure you. That was like his entire concept of builds throughout the course of this tournament. In most of the games that I saw them win. So he's going to do something very similar this game. He went Midas Treads into Force Staff, right? Just to get away from the Tusk Shards. So in the majority of their games, Secret did take mid tower first. We said that last game. It's going to be the case again here. And then they're going to look to connect Nisha as well as Rezo to the top half of the map when they get the chance. If they need to, I guess, would be a more accurate thing. But they turn that mid tower pressure into top tower always. So this game specifically, they turn this mid tower pressure into Liquid trying to defend here, which allowed Rezo to take this tower by himself. So a lot of teams would prioritize taking this tower, at least in previous patches, but I think Secret kind of realized that if you pick a farm-heavy mid that pressures this tower a lot, constantly forces reactions from the opponent team, so even though they're farming, they're not creating like a 4v5 scenario for the rest of their team. I think they realized the best way to open up this tower was to open up this tower. And I will say, in my pubs, playing heroes like Sniper, the majority of times where I lose this tower is when my mid lost his tower. So this is something that I didn't even like recognize in my pubs. Like I didn't even like draw the connection. But after watching Secret, you can see it. You can see that they recognized this. You can see that that was like a core part of their strategy in this tournament. They felt like it was really hard to break this tower against most of the carries. Lifesteal is really hard to boot out of lane. Snipers and Drows are really good at pushing out the lane from distance. It just felt like against these illusion heroes from Tundra as well, like CK and Naga, these heroes are hard to take their tower. They're strong in the early game. They're good at forcing you to bring 4 or 5 heroes there. So Secret always did that through virtue of the mid lane, which was pretty cool. I really like that interpretation of this meta, and it's the kind of stuff where not until you see it do you realize how smart it is. So notice how they play around Nisha. He gets the pressure on mid tower, then he plays the bottom half of the map. The exact same formula they used in game 1. And once again, they would just flip the map at this stage if Rezo was playing Dawnbreaker. I like how Nisha actually TP'd to the triangle and Midas and stole the camp from Crystallis. Kind of speaks heaps about who they prioritize for farm. And it's actually interesting that Crystallis has the #1 net worth, despite that, at this stage in the game. I really want to keep highlighting so you guys kind of get foreshadowed and understand what we're about to see, that when Puppey plays Chin and Enchantress, he gets a lot of net worth. You know, keep looking at this net worth chart, right? So, once again, somebody else on Secret getting gone on because they're farming a more aggressive part of the map than Nisha. He TP's in to clean up. Same thing as before. This time around didn't work out so well, but you can see how Secret likes to distribute the map. So in this game specifically, Nisha got picked on a lot. You know, he died in this fight up top. He just died to a gank right here. And now Liquid's actually going to be the one that seizes the map. You know, they're going to be the ones that threatens Roche. So then it comes down to how Secret plays from behind. You know, it's a bit different of a game than game 1, where we saw Secret kind of in control ever since the Morphling kind of stomped mid. So what I really like about Secret's map distribution, it's a bit different since Puppey's actually farming. Notice how when he's farming, he's actually like in front of his teammates. Enchantress as a hero is just so good at gank tanking. It takes a really long time to kill Enchantress, and it takes a large investment of resources compared to other supports. So like a Silencer, when they would be farming bottom, Silencer would just be sitting right here trying to scout out and actually tank the gank, but just die. You know, that's what Silencer would do. But then Zayach just sits behind a core as well. Nyx and Earthshaker. Nyx is really good at being in front of the core to scout them out to protect them. Earthshaker wants to fissure the person that goes on the core. So Zayach had like a pretty clear role on the map, right? Just sit behind some core or sit right in front of them to scout, basically just making them safe to farm. So Puppey was pretty much always down here somewhere, and Zayach was pretty much always up here somewhere, no matter what hero they were playing. So oddly enough, watching this, the majority of fights that have gone poorly for Secret, this one was about even, but it still didn't go according to plan, are actually Nisha getting initiated onto. So I'm actually curious when we watch the Tundra series, how much we're going to see Nisha getting picked on. You know, are we going to see Nisha getting consistently ganked and pressured? Because we saw what happened when he walked up here and died. We now see, like, when he's getting dove bottom tower, that Secret doesn't exactly seem like they want to respond to this. Like, yes, they brought in Earthshaker, but Rezo, late to TP, like he just started his TP, Nisha's already dead. It didn't seem like they were prepared in the same way that they were when Resolution or Crystallis got gone on with Nisha immediately TPing. So the key to this game, I would say for Secret, is that when the portions of the game that they were losing, it was just them getting gone on and dying full to zero. It was this Tusk-Lina combo that Liquid drafted. We saw Nisha getting picked on by it pretty continuously. So what they ended up doing was buying a ton of kiting items on the side of Secret. So in this case, Nisha just saved his teammate with this 4-staff. Crystallis has a 4-staff of his own. Puppey has a 4-staff. Zayach not even going Blink first. He's just going for the Ag Shard so that he can contribute from long range, never actually having to commit to the fight. And then Beastmaster naturally is a hero that sits in the back behind his summons. So it's a really cool adjustment by Secret. This whole idea that they drafted again to have a lineup that's difficult to fight into. In this case, Liquid was doing a really good job of controlling the early tempo, and their response was, we're just going to kite you back with every single item that we have. So clearly the entire team's on the same page. Their win condition is clear to them, and, you know, obviously, spoiler alert, they're going to win. But we can kind of see the recipe for how they win brewing here. So Liquid's going to overextend a bit into their triangles. Zai is actually going to get bursted, even though the Aegis was expiring. A bit uncharacteristic of Liquid to take a fight like that right as Aegis was expiring. You know, we're watching Nisha's perspective, but it's just constant kiting back. No commitment from Secret at any point. Notice how they're always on the back lines. If they ever get committed onto, they're going to die like this, right? Or at least be close to dying. So every single fight was Secret being back here, forcing Liquid to engage into them, punishing somebody who went too far up, and basically saying, no, that's not your territory, that's ours. So we see in this fight that the damage distribution is relatively equal, and we're seeing that Puppey's already coming in at second so far. Even at 22 minutes, fourth in net worth for his team. He is responsible for dishing out a lot of this damage in these fights. Having multiple threats in these type of lineups is very important when the opponent picks single target physical burst. Pretty much all of their advantage is between Puppey and Boxy. They're actually losing, really emphasizing that Liquid had the 2 core lineups, Secret had the 3 core lineups. This type of stuff is incredibly consistent amongst teams. Kind of gives you an idea of drafting in terms of, like, maybe it doesn't give you all the insight you could ever want as a casual viewer, but if you're learning to figure out which heroes go together with certain strategies, how much farm distribution certain heroes want, all that kind of stuff. So it's like, for example, if you feel like in a lot of your pubs that your carry and mid are playing very greedily, then you might want to take a note out of Zai's book in terms of what heroes he's playing and how he's playing. If you feel like you need to be a bit more carry from the off lane, you feel like your teammates are not clearing enough lanes, you feel like you need to have higher net worth to win your games as an off laner, then you might look at the way Team Secret plays, because they give farm to their off laner. You can check and see how Resolution plays. Same thing with supports. There's games where you can play Enchantress like this, and there's games where you have to be a position 6 silencer. I really want you guys to note how common and consistent these network distributions are on each team. Things you can look out for when you're reviewing replays of your own or, you know, watching this video. So Puppey's a specialist at this. Very standard Enchantress things. Walking in front of the team. Gank tanking. Gonna force a lot of spells on him. The Rage from Lifestealer. They're gonna kite back. Force all the spells from Liquid. Liquid's now fighting into them. Counter initiation stuns from Zayach. Keep kiting back. Notice how Liquid's always the ones chasing. Secret's always the ones kiting back. Wait for Liquid to overextend, and then turn around and kill them. In this case, it's the opposite. Liquid managed to overrun them and kill them. So a bit of an overestimation coming out from Secret of their game plan being successful. Puppey probably thought if he brought a lot of spells onto himself, it would net a good fight for them. Clearly didn't work out that way. So with a lineup that's so defensive, it really comes down to how does Secret plan to get back onto the map? You know, how do they plan to not get stuck in their base anymore? We saw earlier that they made a smoke play from right here because they were stuck in their triangle to get out. I imagine their play is to make another smoke just to try to reclaim some of the map. So in this case, Boxy's camping a ward. They're going to actually just move up as 4 here. Very 5-man heavy, similar to Aster. Just walk out onto the map as 5. Didn't feel like they needed to smoke this time, it looks like. And set up camp in the triangle around wards, waiting for Roche. So this is definitely a game where Liquid's the ones that have to be aggressors. Secret's now just trying to counterplay, not force anything. Rezo's gonna get gone on, but the 4 staffs keep him alive long enough to use his roar. Fighting uphill into Secret. Very difficult to comparison to fighting over here. Secret just holding their ground, say, please walk up into us, please walk up into us. This time around, they look like they're a bit more conservative, though. When Mickey did actually walk up into them, they backed off. They said, okay, we see you. A little more respect. Puppy standing in front of his team, trying to de-ward a high ground. Poking and prodding. A lot of poke coming out from Secret. Just kite out the initiation from Liquid. Uses his Hurricane Pike on Crystallis to create some distance. As long as they don't die in like the first 5 seconds of the fight, Secret will always win these long fights because of their sustained damage from these long range carries. Notice how Puppy's literally carrying them by killing everybody. And this is the core of their concept of their builds, is just don't die in the first few seconds of the fight. And when we show the distribution of damage in this next Roche fight, we're seeing it's all the range damage dealers, right? It's the Drow as well as the Enchantress coming in second place, and Resolution is just a spectator. As this is a pretty much the formula for Secret to win these games. Kite you back, range damage dealers, even Puppy in this case gets the highlight. And it is kind of proven that you can sometimes carry from support if you look at Puppy's damage numbers this game. Resolution even opted for a 4-staff of his own rather than a Blink Dagger. As the game got harder and harder, you can see Secret just committed harder and harder to kiting. They were like, we're never going to commit. Just keep committing to kiting. The only Blink Dagger on their team is Earthshaker, who's even building a 4-staff afterwards. I think that's what makes this meta so difficult for being heroes that commit. It's not only like the Wraith Pact Helm of the Overlord meta that makes it difficult, but the heroes that synergize with this do a lot of damage pretty naturally. Drow just needs no damage items to hit for 370 damage. This is a Manta Hurricane Pike Drow that hits for 370 damage. Of course, she has Pack Leader Aura and Beastmaster Aura, but the idea is the same. It's like, these heroes can buy these types of items and do a ton of damage. So it's really hard to play heroes that have to commit into them and burst them, like Lifestealer, when they can do this much damage with just defensive items. And that's what like the Wraith Pact and Helm of the Overlord allows. So now Puppy's become a damage dealer. You know, look at this. Drums into Plate Mail, becoming harder and harder to kill, creeping up the net worth charts. Has already eclipsed Zai, about ready to eclipse his own offlaner. So most fights, like we said, Secret's sitting on a hill, says, I dare you to walk up into it. Can't fight into our lineup, as long as we don't get bursted. Puppy's even electing to go stats over Nature's Attendance. One thing that's nice about ranged damage dealers is they can also usually right-click the Wraith Pact. Imagine right-clicking a Wraith Pact as Lifestealer, where you have to be in the middle of everything, compared to an Enchantress. Pretty much every team drafted one hero like Lina, like Enchantress, like Drow, that can kill the Wraith Pact. That's like a pretty important part of any draft. And Secret's going to manage to get one clean initiation on the Aegis. Actually, I would like to highlight the fact that Zayach willingly blows Echo Slam in order to kill this Aegis. This, to me, is a pretty impressive decision, where usually you don't want to expend crucial cooldowns. Notice how they force a response from Liquid. Now they're going to kite backwards a bit. And we're going to see, this is going to be the Puppy show here. As Liquid is getting kited and controlled, and Puppy is just chunking people with those impetus shots. Just getting ignored. They're trying to kill the guy stunning them with the Earthshaker. Puppy's just like, I don't give a shit, as I just right-click everybody, even getting Alacrity as opposed to Crystallis. And we don't care about the Tombstone. We don't care about anything else. I'm just going to hit you for the entirety of this fight. And this is why Puppy getting net worth distribution onto him is so important for this lineup to work. And why he plays Enchantress in this way is that there's just too many threats. And all they need is 4 staffs. So when we look at the damage, it is about what we expected. But we see that Puppy and Crystallis did by far the most damage. And the most damage was actually Puppy, the 5-position Enchantress, who's not so much of a 5-position anymore. Really giving priority to him in the farm allows for this to happen, a really important part of Secret's strategy. One concept that I always like to talk about, like a one-liner that I use, is you don't win Dota by killing the opponent a ton of times. You win the game by never dying to them. So I think lineups that scale better are always the lineup that is more naturally survivable against the opponent, whether that's the items they build or the hero kits that they have. So in this game, if you look at the items that both teams have, all of Secret's items are about living, and all of Liquid's items are about killing people. So the lineup that's allowed to build like this, Hurricane Pike, BKB Manta, Hurricane Pike Drums AC, Helm of the Overlord, Force Staff, Blink. These are the lineups that are going to naturally scale better at all times. Obviously, there's certain heroes that can't do this, and in this current meta, because of the free damage coming out from all these offlaners with the auras, these heroes can afford to build more survivability, and that's why it's such a crucial part of this meta, and why I generally like ranged Hurricane Pike builders much more than I like melee heroes like Lifestealer. Kind of why the likes of Slark and such, Faceless Void, I think kind of fell off throughout the course of the tournament. So, Secret doing the very standard thing. They managed to reclaim control of the map after Roche fell again. And they're just going to wait for Roche to respawn. Ward on the hill. Very standard things. The difference between Secret and Aster, it seems like, is that Aster pretty much just camped this area the whole time. Actually, Secret did this in Game 1 as well as Game 3 here, where they camped at this area, farmed all the camps, but then they smoked to invade Liquid. It was successful in Game 1. Let's see if it's successful again in Game 3. Oh, they actually, I remember this. He raged off the Echo Slam. I would say overall, that's like a missed initiation where Liquid was ready for it, you know? And it's still going to pay off for Secret here. Double damage rune on Drow. Looks like in this case it was opportunistic because of the double damage rune on Drow. Pretty similar lead to Game 1. 7 or 8k, 1 or 2 item net lead. Huh, that's actually really cool. I purposely didn't watch these games prior, like in terms of in-depth analysis, because I wanted to kind of be learning with you guys. And I see that Secret differed from Aster. It looks like it's superior to control this area. Invade once. Look for a kill. If it doesn't work, you'd probably retreat back to here. If it does work, you turn it into a high ground push before the Aegis comes out. I would say there's probably some layer of strategy, like 5-head meta shit going on here, where the majority of teams were probably sitting on top of this hill. That's what I would have thought to do. And so you're not really expecting them to leave this hill. You're kind of just assuming they're there on the side of Liquid. But Secret, I'm pretty sure they're playing the assumption that Liquid is making against themselves, right? They're like, oh, Liquid's thinking we're going to stay here, so we're going to do the complete opposite of that. Which is pretty cool. I'd like to note that they always did it after they farmed the camps. Seems pretty high level analysis. Maybe not, I don't know. So that means that their rotations are always coming out around 30 seconds on the minute. That happened in both games, which is pretty cool to see these commonalities. I'm sure this is the stuff that team analysts and coaches are responsible for looking out for. I don't know how much of it you can actually apply in a real game, being ready for that kind of stuff, but that's pretty cool. Take the mid-racks in the same fashion that they did Game 1. Notice how they kite back. Liquid overextends a little bit. Oh, they use abilities. Run. As long as Liquid doesn't kill them in the first few seconds of the fight, all is Gucci for these lineups. Spoiler alert, Tundra was better at that idea than anybody else in the tournament. I am going to be embracing that idea in all of my games. Just make the opponent kill you. Let them come to you, and then when they overextend, you kite them a bit, you kill them. That seems like the Reign Supreme strat, as long as Wraith Pact and Helm of the Overlord are the main items of the patch. That is the strat. I am sticking to it. You have my word. I will at least be committed to that idea, and until they patch the game, that will not change. So we've probably got a few months of this. Hopefully you guys are a little bit ahead of the meta because of this. I've definitely learned a huge amount watching these three teams play to get this far. And Liquid has the onus on them to initiate. As always, they actually managed to bring down the Beastmaster, but he's instantly going to buy back. Drow's just shredding everybody. Meanwhile, Enchantress also shredding people. Free attack speed with the Marksmanship aura. And that's going to close out the game. As if we look at the fight summary when it shows up one more time, Crystallis did a ton of damage in this fight. Without further ado, that is my analysis of Team Secret in TI 11. I hope you guys enjoyed, understand what they're going for. Maybe you learned somebody that you should go watch when they all had a pretty clear role on the team. I hope you guys enjoyed. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. We will be doing Tundra tomorrow, highlighting their finals series and how dominant they were. Bye-bye.